Hello and welcome to round 8 of the 2020 Formula Virtual World Championship here from Hockenheim in Germany. My name's Bradley Downton and I'm once again not joined by Lily Westwood but by Robert Mathershaw.
Good afternoon.
Today then the drivers will be tackling 67 laps of this 4.574 kilometre circuit. It was Enrique Ruiz who won here last year, then Nathaniel Powers holds that record and did start on pole, but it will be interesting to see whether anyone can beat Ruiz today then. Let's take a look through the grid, and well, it's changed from the norm. It's a front row lockout, but this time it's Downton after a mixed conditions qualifying session yesterday. It's Nathaniel Powers who heads Klaas van Snelheid on the front row of the grid then. They're on split tyre strategy, soft and medium, as are the two Mathershaw Porsches just behind them. Ruiz also on the softs, Adrian Simon on the extras. There's a few of them today, but most have opted for the soft and the medium tyre. It's another lockout. On row 3, Will Hoskins heads Felix Perez as the two firsts make up that one. A little way behind now, the top two teams, it's Johan Halverson who lines up 7th ahead of a phenomenal performance from Sergio Alvarez, the Argentine, getting that Phoenix to 8th on the grid, and that is easily his best qualifying of the season, as it is for Gabriel Garcia. He qualified 9th in France and he's matched it again here in Germany. James Vazquez rounds out the top 10 for Ingram, with one of his better sessions actually matching where he qualified last time out. It's an all Lopez row 6, Elroy Wagner ahead of Alar Kanga. Not quite a common sight this season. It's the German ahead at his home track. John Matson lines up 13th, just ahead of Hunter Ryan. Hunter Ryan in 14th is the lead Ocelot, and they will be tremendously disappointed with that performance. Both of the cars further down the grid than you would have expected. On row 8, the two Westwoods line up. Carl Beckenbauer ahead of Puccio Giordano, and Beckenbauer matching his best qualifying of the season as well. Thierry Zylander and Timo Kinnaman line up together on row 9. And just behind them, completing the top 20, the second of the Ocelots, a very disappointed Dominikas Virinas, although it's becoming somewhat of the norm to see him further down the grid in qualifying. Not brilliant at all. Nick Addison will start from 20th. It's Carson Davenport going from 21st, ahead of the second Chima of Nikolai Milkovic. Just behind them, on the penultimate row, we've got Lewis Ellington and Chiara Thunder. Chiara matching her best result and only getting off the back row of the grid for the second time. And behind them, on the back row of the grid, we have Marcus Thunder and Takumi Takahashi, as both AMRs and both Meteors failed to qualify. So as we go down to the grid then, it's Nathaniel Powers in pole position on the right, Klaas van Snelheid second on the left. The lights go out already, and it's Nathaniel Powers then who gets a great start here in Germany. Klaas van Snelheid looks though he's bogged down. He's got Enrique Ruiz already round the outside, and Ruiz shoots into second then. At turn 1, Will Hoskins is up to third, and Klaas has lost 2 spots off the grid. Adrian Simon's lost a bit of ground as well. He's dropped to 5th, as Will Hoskins now challenging Ruiz for second place at turn 2, but Powers has broken away up front then. Ruiz second, Hoskins third, Klaas 4th, Simon 5th. Halverson and Alvarez have passed Perez as well.
Fantastic start there from Nathaniel Powers. Got the perfect launch off the line. Everyone else seemed to be squabbling amongst each other into turn 1. And Powers has already got a margin of 1.4 seconds. That is the perfect start for Brett.
Yeah, as Alvarez then gets slightly boxed up behind, that's Johan Halverson. Perez tries to go around the outside, doesn't quite manage it, but they're now wheel to wheel then as they come out of the hairpin and round the fast right-hander, and Perez does indeed sweep through and back into 7th place and makes up one of those positions he lost at the start, as Garcia looks up the inside of Alvarez, can't make that worth doing, and the two Lopez then side by side, and it's Kanga that comes out on top.
Yeah, it looks like already we're going to see a slightly more overtaking friendly kind of race. There are 2 or 3 really good overtaking zones into turn 2 at the hairpin, down at the Parabolica, and then also just the section before the stadium section. So every chance for people to pass through the field as needed on the different tyre strategies today. Yeah,
certainly is a lot of overtaking opportunities, as you say, here in Germany, but it's Nathaniel Powers romping away already up front then, as Klaas van Snelheid heavily defends the inside line, and he's been hit by Adrian Simon then. The two have come together on the second lap here in Germany. They look as though they might have both just got away with that. Simon's lost a couple of positions there to Halverson and Perez, and another one possibly to Alvarez. He's defending it for all he's worth on those extra soft tyres, but I think no, Alvarez was going to sweep around that side, but Simon's just got the better traction then and holds on in 7th. Klaas was lucky not to lose any places there in 4th.
Yeah, a bit of an unfortunate incident so early on the race for those two. I think Adrian Simon now doesn't look to be any particularly. I think he's got one of his right elements on his front wing missing, but other than that, I think it looks in good shape. But on those extra soft tyres, it's going to be a very difficult afternoon there for the Frenchman.
Yeah, it certainly will. He's got a lot of overtaking to do now then as Alar Kanga pressuring James Vazquez for the final points playing position. Here we go, on board on a replay then. And well, Klaas was far up the inside, and yeah, Simon kind of tried to aim for the apex as though Klaas wasn't even there.
Yeah, I think he might have been hoping rather than expecting. I think hoping is definitely the right word there, that Klaas van Snelheid was going to just take a bit more speed through the apex with the tight entry and clatter over that inside curve. But obviously, the Dutchman knows full well that if you hit that, you're going to get a bit of air and lose front, lose a lot of front grip because your tyres are off the ground. But yeah, Adrian Simon, not the best judgment there. I think difficult season so far. Already we're starting to see the pressure build on him in the German V-Prix.
Yeah, we certainly are. As you say, it's been a really tricky start to the year for him. I mean, when Ruiz joined that team at the start of the season, everyone was expecting this titanic fight, and I think when they've actually found one another on track, we have pretty much seen it. But they just don't tend to find one another. Ruiz is, for one reason or another, seems to end up ahead more often than not, and he's picked up, he's only ever finished, with the exception of Silverstone, where the strategy went slightly wrong, he's only ever finished first or second in this season, whereas Adrian Simon's only actually picked up, is it 2 podiums?
Yeah, something like that. I think it's been a very strange season, like start season, and I think you've summed it up perfectly there. It's not necessarily that that his pace hasn't been there. It's almost been a case that he has been at the wrong place at the wrong time so many times. The bad luck. And one of our engineers is from Yorkshire, and he has indeed taught Adrian Simon the phrase "chance would be a fine thing" in terms of being able to have a straight fight with Ruiz at some point during the race.
Yeah, very much would be then. As the speaking of Ruiz, he is following Nathaniel Powers away up front, but it's now Felix Perez then who set the fastest lap, the Mexican, in a bit of clean air, but that's immediately beaten by Adrian Simon. So the guys at the front on the extra soft tyres, they're starting to come in now. They looked as though they took a few more laps to fire up than the soft tyres, which is a really strange situation. But they're there now, and Perez and Simon absolutely flying, rocketing up to the back of Klaas van Snelheid and Johan Halvorsen, respectively.
Yeah, Ruiz seems to have made up a couple of tenths of a second on Powers since Powers took his downturn so far away from the rest of the field after about 3 corners, really. It's interesting to look at the midfield. Everything is really mixed up because on the grid everybody was relatively stratified at the front. It was the Downtons, the Mavishores, and then the first cars. But everything already in the first few laps has very much mixed up. So we're in for a really competitive race today, by the look of it.
Yeah, we certainly are. It's as I say, the top 2 then are on the soft tyres, while Will Hoskins in third is on the mediums, and then he's got a couple of guys behind him on the Klaas is on the mediums as well, and then the 2 on the extra softs behind him then, as Nathaniel Powers crosses the line to start lap 5 here in Germany then. Enrique Ruiz has just got the gap down and under a second.
Yeah, fantastic. Again, that start from Powers really has set him up brilliantly. Tyre strategies today, I haven't got in front of me, I must admit, the full extent of who's on what tyres, but I'm expecting today for the 4-stop strategy, so possibly the extra soft runner of Adrian Simon amongst others, be lap 14 for his first pit stop. 3 stops will be lap 17, so potentially the soft runners. The mediums I'd expect to be in on around lap 23 or later, and then for the hard tired runners it would be lap 34 for halfway through the race. But interestingly, each of those stints, they only really need to get to that full stint once because of the way with the 67 lap race the laps divide up. So if they can get that full stint in once, they might be able to risk pushing on the tyres a little bit more and pitting that lap earlier in the remainder of the race.
Yeah, very much. As we just see there, sorry, that's Takahashi going past Davenport. But I've just noticed Klaas van Snelheid is up past Will Hoskins into third place. Not quite sure what happened there. Absolutely, totally missed that one.
Yeah, in addition, I think Enrique Ruiz is now really getting onto the back with quite a loose rear end as he's coming through the final couple of corners. But he's really reeling in that time back on Nathaniel Powers.
Yeah, he certainly is. Ruiz has pretty much closed down all of that, or at least half of that gap that Powers eked out in the opening few laps then, and I think this is going to, I say, they've already dropped third place now, Klaas van Snelheid, by about 4 seconds. Obviously he is on a different tyre compound, we'll have to see how that plays out, but I think these two are really going to push one another on in this race, and well, depending on how the strategy works out, them pushing one another on might actually pull them clear of the field.
Yeah, for sure. I think that as in a similar way to we've seen between the
here we go. Sorry to cut across you. The two first then, side by side. Will Hoskins, I don't know if he's struggling at the moment or what, but Felix Perez down the inside. So the second time in 2 laps, Will Hoskins loses a position, and admittedly his teammate is on a compound of tyre that is 2 steps softer. But yeah, Hoskins, he's already now 2 seconds as well behind Klaas van Snelheid. Looks as though he's not quite got the pace at the moment, and he's now got Adrian Simon all over his rear wing.
Yeah, Van Snelheid certainly has got those medium tyres a little bit more up to temperature. I think it's a similar situation with Powers.
Adrian Simon sweeps around the outside, and he must have literally just avoided contact by the width of a cigarette paper.
That is some very fraught attacking driving there from Adrian. I think he's probably, again, he's driving relatively annoyed, probably with himself more than anything this time. So he needs to keep calm, he needs to keep it on the road, but brilliant move around the outside of Hoskins. But going back to what you say about Ruiz and Simon, I think it's been a similar situation with Ruiz and Powers between the Downton and the Porsche team, because the Porsche team have used a relatively different strategy to the entire field so far this season. It's the first time we're really going to see the proper straight fight between Powers and Ruiz. And then, as you say, there's the added caveat that Van Snelheid on the step harder tyres is right there lurking in the background, and he's going to come under attack from Perez anytime soon, but I don't think Perez is certainly going to hold him up on those extra soft tyres. So it's going to be interesting to see how the dynamics of this race change as the tyre strategies ebb and flow.
Yeah, certainly will. Interestingly, I say, Perez has already romped right up to the back of Klaas van Snelheid, and he's already pressuring him. He's got some 2 seconds back to Adrian Simon. Meanwhile, Will Hoskins looks as though he's fallen into the clutches of Johan Halverson. There's definitely something going on with that first car, because the pace in the last few laps has really dropped off, as that was Garcia then back into the hairpin a while back in this lap, now defending from Alar Kanga.
Yeah, that first car of Hoskins, I think there's definitely an underlying issue that we're looking at the time.
I mean, I know his teammates on the extra sauce, but he's already like 3.5 seconds behind him.
Well, considering with Hoskins, that is a car on the medium tyre that has very much been taking the point to Downton previously. You'd expect that Van Snelheid on the same tyre would be at least comparable in lap time, but he is just falling back that little bit from Van Snelheid. So, yeah, I mean, also Klaas is doing a brilliant job of holding Perez behind. So.
He absolutely is, but I don't think it's going to last much longer. I fully expecting Felix Perez then to blast past here. He's around the outside, down into the hairpin, and that will give him the inside line, and through easily into third place goes Felix Perez. Klaas van Snelheid, I'm not sure if he had the tyres to fight that really, but probably deciding that it's just not worth it. You know, he's on a different strategy, let him go, they'll converge at the end, and that's when he needs to defend.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, and I think it'll be a similar strategy when Adrian Simon eventually reaches it. Don't lose any time battling them, let them go ahead, let them take the extra pit stop, save your tyres, and really make your strategy work for what you want to do.
Definitely, though, he might be slightly more reluctant with Simon, given he punted him earlier in the race.
It's very true. Although, to be honest, if I was Klaas right now, I'd probably be like waving him through so he didn't try and do it again.
Sort of like just park somewhere off the track and go, just go through, just don't hit me again.
Get one of the big foam fingers that they get in the baseball and like wave him through.
Yeah, definitely. There's Enrique Ruiz and still pressuring Nathaniel Powers. And you mentioned a minute ago that this is the first time that we're seeing them on the same strategies. But actually, I believe they were on the same tyres in Spain when Ruiz just sort of romped off into the distance.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And looking at Ruiz, how relatively comfortable he is in the dirty air behind Powers, in fact, I think he may be about to line up a move on the inside into the parabolic. He's got alongside, and I think the move has been made. Yeah, no, kind of textbook move into the hairpin for a race at Hockenheim. It'll be interesting now. I do anticipate him running away a little bit at the front compared to Powers, but it's that time loss behind Powers relative to Van Snelheid now that I think is going to be the key factor in this race.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was absolutely as easy as you like for Ruiz, wasn't it? And yeah, as you say,
Absolutely.
I think he will very much disappear off into the distance now. And actually, I was incorrect. They weren't on the same tyres in the last race, but they were on the same tyres in France, which was
Right.
another race
Yeah.
where Ruiz just actually disappeared off into the distance.
I mean, that has happened more than once this year, I suppose. So
It has, yes.
it's easy to make a mistake.
I was slightly hoping that maybe it wouldn't quite be the case here, but yeah, Powers really had absolutely no defence there, did he? And he's nearly already a second back.
No, but he's still very much in a good position, because I think that relative to the guys on the harder tyre that are behind, he's looking good. Perez is behind him and on a slower tyre, as on a softer tyre, as is Adrian Simon. Powers still, even if he doesn't quite have the ultimate pace for the win today, still very much on the course for a second place, or at worst a podium, I'd say, barring any issues.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see as it plays out, as Adrian Simon now then making the move on Klaas van Snelhouden again. Klaas just deciding probably not worth fighting that one. Lets Adrian up the inside into the hairpin. And through into fourth goes the Frenchman then, as Johan Halvorsen gets the switch back on Will Hoskins, but doesn't quite have the traction there out of the hairpin. He is on a slightly softer tyre, but obviously in I think what we'd comfortably say was a slower car, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the Ford power unit as well out of the corners has proved to be pretty good so far this season. Interesting to see Halvorsen once again, though, best of the rest of outside the current top three teams. Again, an impressive performance in qualifying, and he seems to be backing it up by running away from the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think Halvorsen is taking that car that is firmly... There is absolutely a gap between the top three teams and the rest of the field and everyone else, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I think while that North Star is in the group that is kind of the rest of the field, Halvorsen has put himself firmly in that gap, hasn't he? He's not really in with where the North Star should be. He's not quite up to the top three. He's firmly in that gap that is usually seventh place. However, I think that is being exaggerated slightly here by the fact that Will Hoskins is clearly struggling, although he's not actually lost too much more time to Klaas van Snelhouden. So I'm starting to think that maybe actually the mediums are just a really slow tyre here today. And also that Alvarez is slow behind him.
That is a very good point. I think it's one of those unknowable questions that I'm about to ask, of whether or not Halvorsen is really that good relative to the car, or whether is Garcia actually underperforming in that car, because I suppose the reality is generally going to be somewhere in between the two potentially. But it'd be interesting to see either Halvorsen in a faster car battling at the front like he was in the years when he was with Meteor in 2016, or potentially somebody else in that North Star seat for the future instead of Garcia.
Yeah, it certainly would. I think, as you say, it's very much a mix of both. I think Halvorsen is absolutely outperforming the car, and Garcia is nowhere near the level that he needs to be. Sorry, we'll come back to that. Perez and Simon in the pits already then at the end of lap 11, that is. So that should work out for a beautiful five-stopper.
Yeah, I think as long as it's very, very on the line, but at worst, I think they'll just about manage it.
I think the only disadvantage they may have here is while they had the pace advantage over Hoskins and Klaas van Snelhouden on the mediums, as they feed back out in 12th, or no, Perez is going for 11th, and Perez takes 11th, so that's 11th and 16th respectively then. They had the pace over the mediums, they didn't really seem to have the pace over those on the soft tyres as much.
The tyre strategies this season have been absolutely mental, and I feel like it's just going to keep on running on like that and all season.
Certainly is, as Adrian Simon there around the outside of Puccio Giordano then, and that is going to be an easy 15th place. I'd say Giordano almost gave that position up to the I'd forgotten the word. Porsche, that's the one. Their fellow Porsche team.
That's us.
And yeah, Simon then through easily into 15th. Felix Perez already hassling Gabriel Garcia, but coming out behind these guys, behind these midfielders, with Alvarez kind of leading this train. Mind you, Alvarez has got a gap back to Vasquez, who's himself got 3 seconds back to Wagner. So I don't think it is fair actually to say Alvarez is holding them up. But I think this is absolutely going to cost these guys on the extra soft tyres.
Yeah, I think the combination of the grid positions that they occupied at the start and then not making any progress really from the start of the race is really going to cost them. I think that the battle for them now is almost to get the gap to Halverson and still be able to make it up to the point where they'll be fighting for 5th and 6th between them, really.
Yeah, certainly is, and well, they've got 10 seconds to find then to get to Johan Halverson as Perez goes up the inside of Garcia, and yeah, so he's into 10th, and Simon up past Zverenas as well. So they are making the moves on these midfield cars, and I think you'd expect that. You know, they're on the quickest tyre, and these guys have a car that's nowhere near the same level, and tyres that aren't anywhere near as quick either. As up front then, Enrique Ruiz has extended his gap to 1.5 seconds now then here in Germany. Klaas van Snelheid is some 8 seconds off the lead already, but I mean, I suppose that's not atrocious.
No, on the harder tyre, I'd say that's actually a really solid result, because we haven't quite got the data for the pit stop time yet, but if it's anything like we've been seeing so far, he's going to need to have dropped behind 20 seconds over the course of the race to really be risking losing the position. So I think ultimately it's a really strong position for Van Snelheid to be in.
Yeah, certainly is. As Carl Beckenbauer then, who is also on the extra soft tyres, currently running in last place. He's got some clear air in front of him to catch up to Lewis Ellington first off, but Beckenbauer sets the fastest lap then, as Felix Perez now stalking Elroy Wagner, but can't get the move done there as Adrian Simon makes his 3rd move in 3 laps down the inside of Jean Matson, and that is easy, and he is up into 13th position now. Following Hunter Ryan then, and I don't think it'll be long before he dispatches of the Australian either. As up towards the front then, Ruiz still leading powers as they start lap 15. Klaas van Snelheid as well has looks as though he's maybe just gapped Will Hoskins ever so slightly. Gaps up to about 4.5 seconds. And Halverson keeping Will Hoskins really honest here.
I almost think that if Halverson could just get that run out of the corner onto the long back straight before the hairpin at turn 4, I'd be intrigued to see how Halverson could get on, potentially even pulling away from Hoskins. I know he's on the softer tyre, so he'd possibly expect him to, but if he can get past, I think he's really comfortable to the best of the rest, if he's not already pretty safe in that position.
Yeah, mind you, Kanga is catching them now that he's passed and clear of Alvarez. As we go on board, well, we're still on board with Felix Perez, and he's going to drive clean around the outside of Elroy Wagner. And Perez is going to get that move done even before the corner. And what I've just noticed there, actually, is Wagner is on the soft tyres. Him and Alar Kanga were side by side on the opening lap. Kanga is now 6 seconds up the road.
Yeah, that's...
And we've seen this quite a lot this season.
Yeah, Kanga has form, doesn't he, of pulling out some really good performances like that. But yeah, no, I think he's doing another good job today after a couple of races where he's possibly been a little bit more anonymous.
Yeah, speaking of guys doing a good job, that was Nick Addison we were briefly on board with there. Currently running in 17th position, is behind him Thierry Zylander gets a kick of oversteer, and Timo Kinnaman clean around the outside there. And the Finn goes up, or does he? No, Zylander's sticking it in as Adrian Simon smacks in a really quick fastest lap of 20.9 then. And yeah, Zylander holds that on, and now Kinnaman under pressure from Marcus Thunder. So that one didn't quite work out for the Finn.
Yeah, like it's also, I'd like to. Is this the first race we've got both arrows in the actual race?
No, I don't think so. I think they were both there in France.
Well, excellent. Congratulations to them on their second race with both.
Sorry, I'm just going to cut across you. Down the inside of Elroy Wagner goes Adrian Simon then, and the Frenchman is back into the top 10.
He's certainly making those extra soft work in the traffic by making those overtakes, but obviously with the slower cars that he's overtaking. But he really, I think he's going to have a little bit more trouble once he gets to even Kanga and Halverson. So, and similar with Perez, and Ruiz is now in the pit, and Powers. So the soft tire runners are pitting on lap 16.
Yeah, in at the end of lap 16. So as we go on board with Nathaniel Powers in the pit lane, then looks like a fairly decent stop from both the crews, and they will both be comfortably back out. Where will they come back out though? That's going to be an interesting question. As Ruiz leaves the pit lane, I think he's going to be clear of Alar Kanga, and he is. So Ruiz has a bit of clear out. Powers doesn't quite, because he's behind Alar Kanga. So that could be really crucial for the Brazilian. I mean, I think he's just going to pull away now anyway, to be honest. But
yeah, that could be absolutely key.
Yeah. I was going to say something, I forgot.
It's okay, the commentary booth, which is a common theme this season, well, this side of it certainly, the 2 meters distance between me and Bradley.
Sorry, Perez down the inside of Alvarez, and that is 8th then for the Mexican. Carry on.
Oh no, I'm just lamenting my technical difficulties.
Ah, yes, it's that's become a running theme this season, unfortunately.
Yes.
As now that the top 2 have pitted, then Klaas-Van Snelheid goes into the lead here in Germany. Will Hoskins is some 5.5 seconds behind him, still with Johan Halverson all over the back of him. Ruiz, I should imagine, will be catching these guys fairly quick, although Halverson surely is going to peel into the pits. And as I say it, there he goes. So Halverson on the soft tyres then. Kanga dives in as well. Kanga also on the softs, and James Vazquez all in. So this will free. I'll tell you what this will do is this will free Perez and Simon up beautifully.
Yeah, that's really benefited them. So obviously with the but interestingly, looking at the soft tyred runners there, the first couple that pitted on lap 16 or on the start of lap 17. Sorry, it's touch and go for them. They need to make another stint work longer. But for these guys that have just managed to eat the extra lap out of the tyres, again, it's almost going to be the difference between a 4 and a 3 stop potentially.
Okay, yeah, just doing the mental calculation in my head, and you're quite right. It will be interesting to see then. Obviously, they know, they've got the data now from those that have gone 17 laps. They know that it is possible. So it's just going to be a case of executing that one now.
Definitely, I think it's. I think we have seen that a couple of times, isn't it? The top teams have possibly been a little more conservative on that first stint, just with everything they've got at stake potentially. But then they have seen that other teams have managed to extend that gap, extend that stint, so they've been able to push it on later on in the race with lighter fuel loads as well, of course. Yeah,
it's certainly been interesting to see whether they can indeed pull that down from a very late 4th final stop to just being 3 in this race. What did we say the extra soft tyres were doing? 5, wasn't it? So
yeah,
I mean, to be fair, either way, that's looking pretty painful.
Yeah, because they've got, so for the even if the 4 stoppers have have 4 stops, they should be okay. I would imagine compared to the extra soft, certainly. But I think the medium tide runners are definitely the threat now.
Yeah, certainly are. Although I'm not sure Will Hoskins is. Enrique Ruiz breezes down the inside into the hairpin, and well, that was absolutely comfortable for the Brazilian.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's. I think really Ruiz needs to maybe take a lot of time out of Van Snelheid now to really get behind him and get past him. Because personally, at this point, I'd say that Van Snelheid's one of the favourites for the win, without doubt.
Well, we shall see. It'll be interesting to note how quickly that 5-second gap comes to. I mean, it's down by nearly half a second already from what it was when Ruiz moved into second, as Nathaniel Powers is now rocketing up to the back of his countryman. And he'll be looking to bypass Hoskins as easily as Ruiz did then. Interestingly, since these guys on the fresh soft tyres came out of the pits, Ruiz and Powers, Perez and Simon haven't really caught up to them a whole lot.
I think the extra soft tyre has got a lot of pace in it to start with here, but it's dropping off a little, just that little bit, which means, as you say, the fresh softs compared to the kind of middle of the stint now, almost at the end of their stint. Extra softs don't really make that margin, so I don't know whether the temperatures are just not quite enough, or just not quite low enough for that extra soft tyre to really come into its own. But no, I think, to be honest, it was not the correct strategy call here from both Perez and Simon from first and Porsche.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not looking that way at the moment, as Nathaniel Powers there. I thought he was going to get a run at Will Hoskins, and Hoskins was going to lose 2 places in 2 laps. But Powers just didn't quite seem to have the top end to get that move done on that lap. I don't know if he was slightly further back than it appeared on the camera, but he'll absolutely be hoping, because he's now spent a lap now behind his compatriot. He'll be hoping not to do another one. Ruiz is disappearing off into the distance here, and he absolutely needs to get that one done. Ruiz actually now, the gap down to Klaas van Snelheid is just over 3 seconds, so I mean, he's tearing strips off of that.
Yeah, Ruiz really has got his eye in now, really pushing that car for all it's worth. The other thing to note as well with the extra soft, now that Perez is in that little bit of clear air, I know that they're coming to the end of the stint, so the clear airs come at the wrong time for those two, because we've seen previously that extra soft tyre works brilliantly if you've got nobody in front of you on the track and you can really push it for all it's worth, because you can make the extra time up. But as soon as there is somebody in front of you, it's almost race over from that instant onwards.
Yeah, certainly is. Here we go then with Nathaniel Powers. He was far closer that time. And as you see, actually even ahead of Will Hoskins into the braking zone, and that was easily through and into 3rd places. Meanwhile, behind them, Adrian Simon now looks as though he's closed up the gap that he'd lost earlier in the race to Felix Perez, and hounding the Mexican now for what is 5th place. As behind them, Alar Kanga and John Matson side by side. I think that's Kanga going back through after his pit stop. Matson obviously on the medium tyres hasn't stopped yet. Kanga on the softs has. And he's got Johan Halverson a couple of seconds ahead of him. So actually Kanga doing really well here. Halverson, who was on the back of Hoskins earlier on, looked as though he was out on his own. Kanga is absolutely closing that one in. But I was just looking at Perez and Simon. Obviously in a lap or two, they're going to be making their second stops. If we're assuming it's about a 20-second pit stop, that's going to be catastrophic. They're going to come out around Thierry Zylander down in 12th place, and that's going to give them a whole host of cars to overtake once again.
Yeah, particularly with Zylander on the medium tyre, so hopefully for them they'd potentially be getting out the way. But with the lights in front of them of Ryan, so Ryan's on the medium as well, so they're 2 steps slower on the tyres, and then once they've managed to clear those medium runners, you've got the guys who are on the soft tyre, who again they've only just pitted really. They're going to go quite a long way into this stint, so it's one problem that they've got right in front of them now. Or once they've fitted, and then once they've got rid of that, there's just a whole heap more trouble for them.
Yeah, it's certainly not working out. I think if they'd had clear air from the very start of the race and they'd been able to pull away and make that gap, as we've seen, that strategy may well have worked here. But it's the fact that they keep encountering traffic now in what seems to be every stint is, I do believe, is really going to cost them actually here. As Ruiz, meanwhile, has got the lead gap down to under a second.
Wow. I think that's something, going back to what you're saying about the traffic, that's something that we are very, very aware of, and we've almost been trying to take advantage of our position in the pecking order to make use of this extra soft tyre. Oh, and as we say that, have they both pitted?
Yeah, both Perez and Simon are into the pits. We had a yellow flag briefly in the middle sector. Elroy Wagner is down in 23rd position then for some reason, so I'm assuming the German has come to grief somewhere at his home race.
So these guys, where are they going to...
Yeah, so just looking at that then, Perez and Simon, actually I think they've kind of nailed the last few laps. They've both come out, they're clear of Matson, Ryan and Zylander, so they only have Alvarez, Halverson and Kanga ahead of them.
Yeah, so they've pretty much exactly come out in that gap between the medium and soft-tyred runners that were in the midfield. So, yeah, no, that's great bit of work from both those guys to put in those final laps at the end of the stint, and also great work from the guys in the pit lane.
Yeah, as we've suddenly got, I've just noticed both Westwoods are in the pits. Beckenbauer will be, because he's, that'll be his second stop. He is on the extra soft tyres. Giordano, that will absolutely be a... what's the phrase I'm looking for? an unexpected, unscheduled pit stop.
Yes, that's the word I think you were looking for.
That's definitely the word I was looking for. Yeah, what tyres is Giordano's on the softs.
Yeah.
So yeah, so something's gone wrong there. I wonder if, I mean, I'm just going to put 2 and 2 together here. Did Wagner and Giordano come together?
I think yeah, there's something in the air here in Hockenheim that's suggesting that's potentially the case. I think looking at Alvarez on the medium tyre.
You just merged Alvarez and Halverson.
Yes, well,
what a driver that would be.
Well, they're going to get 5th and 6th between them, so you know. Yeah, but Alvarez on the medium tyre, looking at where he's potentially going to come out. So I think it's going to be under 20 seconds for the pit stop. So I think he's going to be right with where Thierry Zylander is now, considering they're on the same tyre. I think that Alvarez has almost got an entire pit stop over his teammate. Not quite, because actually, as I say this, Alvarez loses a bit of time and makes me look like a complete idiot. But it's a really good result, really good performance so far from the Argentinian.
Both work.
Yeah,
I think it is. We see both Perez then and now Adrian Simon as well past Alar Kanga, but Kanga is fighting him back, and Alar Kanga absolutely not taking that one laying down, is he? And Kanga back around the outside of his former teammate, and he says, absolutely not, son, I am keeping hold of that one. As up front, Ruiz then at turn 1 goes through past Klaas van Snelheid into the lead.
Yeah, and Powers as well is really coming in hot behind Van Snelheid, so going to be interesting. And here is
here we go on board then. This is the replay, and wow, Klaas braked slightly earlier than I think you'd expect on the outside line, left the gap on the inside, and Ruiz, it was late, but he took it and he made it work, and that was a brilliant last minute move from the Brazilian.
Very much so. You know how I was saying with Adrian Simon, he was potentially expecting Klaas van Snelheid to collapse the curve. I think that Ruiz showed how you can just about make that work if you committed to that.
Yeah, definitely. As Adrian Simon now then, his car back and back sets the fastest lap once again here in Germany. I think that's because Perez and Simon are stuck in traffic at the moment. But yeah, that was far easier that time for Adrian Simon as he goes up to 8th past Kanga, while ahead of him, Perez takes 6th from Johan Halverson.
I think Kanga was very much there. He was keen to make his point and show his worth, but after that, not going to put up too much of a fight because he still knows who pays his wages. Yeah,
most definitely is. I'll tell you what, Klaas van Snelheid has done his teammate an absolute solid here, hasn't he? As long as he doesn't hold him up now. But that gap between Ruiz and Powers is pretty much halved compared to what it was, thanks to Klaas's stellar defence for a handful of laps.
Yeah, there's been a great bit of defensive driving in general there from Van Snelheid. I wouldn't anticipate Powers being held up particularly long, and indeed I think he may. Yeah,
I think you're quite right. I think he's going to get it done on this. No, he's not then.
No.
Klaas van Snelheid just sat in the middle of the track, and Powers decided it wasn't worth it, and this could cost him, because I get the feeling he's now going to be sat behind him until that point next time round.
I think he was weighing up the pros and cons there, a little bit too far back to try the dive bomb. Van Snelheid, the two downwind drivers though very much have that air of respect with each other. They know full well that they're not going to try and take each other out. I think that's one of the key advantages for this pairing down compared to other drivers on the grid, shall we say?
Yeah, very much so. You know, they know one another, they respect one another, as you say. That they're not going to do the silly dive bomb, but likewise, Klaas isn't just going to step aside. Yes, they're on a different strategy, but they are still scrapping, and he will let his teammate through when his teammate is appropriately close enough and can get the overtake done. And likewise, Powers will wait for that opportunity as well. He's not just going to throw a silly move up the inside and risk contact because, well, then they know they'll both be in trouble.
Absolutely. And as much as anything, Van Snelheid knows that he only needs to hold Powers up just enough to beat him. He doesn't need to ruin his race. So I think it's really good, respectful driving. And we've seen wheel-to-wheel action as well. I seem to remember they may well have come into grief with each other every now and again, but in general, the racing action between these two, considering they're in the same team, is really really good, really hard racing, but never really crossing that line.
Yeah, mind you, for the second lap in a row then, Nathaniel Powers isn't able to get that move done down into the hairpin. He's stuck behind his teammate. He's already lost 1.5 seconds to Enrique Ruiz in one lap. And this is, well, all of that gap that he gained with Klaas's stellar defending from Ruiz, he's now lost as Adrian Simon goes up past Johan Halvorsen into 7th. And I think that's these guys on the extra soft tyres coming out ahead of those on the mediums has actually really helped them, because the initial grip and speed that they get from those extra softs has been enough to get them past the those on the soft tyres fairly comfortably.
Yeah, and they've still got just enough in hand to then make the use of them before they have to come back in to fit another set. So I think you're absolutely right. I think if they had to...
Oh, sorry, Klaas pits. Klaas van Snelheid in the pits then for his first stop on the medium tyres.
So there we go, lap 28, so that's pretty much a nailed on. Whoa, wow.
Oh, yeah, very close there between then Will Hoskins and Klaas van Snelheid in the pits, but the lads have just managed to avoid one another, and Klaas is... Oh, he's not quite going to come out in third. I thought he was just about then, and I think if Hoskins hadn't been coming into the pit lane, he would have done it. But Klaas van Snelheid settles into 6th then, and he's just behind Alvarez, Perez and Simon. Sergio Alvarez is... I mean, I know he's, he's yet to pit. Alvarez is running 3rd.
I was just going to say, I'm not convinced it's going to be for long. I think he might be able to get mugged by 2.
Yeah, but it looks as though Perez has been caught up behind him. And is this going to give Adrian Simon the opportunity to do the pair of them? It absolutely is. Simon from 5th to 3rd.
That was fantastic from Adrian there. I think he's... Sometimes when he has a difficult start to a race, he channels it in the right way, or he can channel it in the wrong way that destroys his race even further. Today, I think he is just putting the hammer down and really, really getting on with it. I was going to say, though, that Alvarez is doing an absolutely stellar job. I'm pretty sure that Alex Easton and the boys on the pit wall, they'll be having vertigo from what they're seeing so far.
They certainly will. As yeah, I tell you what, that was a oh, his round behind him goes Johan Halvorsen then, and Halvorsen was just behind Klaas van Snelheid in the order, and he's just avoided taking out Alar Kanga and Will Hoskins. He's going to rejoin in front of the second Ingram of James Vazquez, but I don't think that was too bad in terms of some of the rejoins we have seen, as Alvarez then finally bails on lap 29 to make his first pit stop. And in fact, he looked as though he was trying to go around the outside of Klaas van Snelheid and got on the curb, and that was what spat him around.
Yeah, I think he was trying to be a bit of a hero, to be honest there. That's not really a move that you try, even if you are on the softer tyre compared to the guy in front of you. I think at that point you sit behind, you wait, you take the pain for a couple more corners, and then try and make the move into turn 2 rather than necessarily destroying all that good work so far straight away.
Yeah, most definitely. But look what that caused. That's Klaas van Snelheid going past Felix Perez then. So Perez on the extra soft tyres, admittedly they are getting on a bit now, though they've still got 4 or 5 laps left in them, which is pretty much half the stint. Klaas van Snelheid on those fresh mediums has just sighed through and up into 4th place.
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing here though that the extra soft tyre, you get all that advantage at the start of the stint, which is great for getting past people in traffic. But then the loss in time benefit, I'm not convinced that the extra soft tyre and the soft tyre over the course of your respective stint length will actually have any benefit compared to which is worth taking short stint length. It's just the surface of the tyre should be overheating that a little bit too quickly.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder that as well. The extra soft especially. The soft doesn't seem too bad. I mean, Ruiz and Powers are now some way. I know the guys behind them have been fighting and they're in the field and they've, the pit stops and everything. But they are now some way clear, and I think once Ruiz and Powers pit, they've already got 1 stop in hand over Klaas van Snelheid. So if they do only make 3, I mean they've done it already. If they have to make 4, well, they're not halfway through the race yet, and they've got the 1 stop. So I'd say that's arguably they're gonna do that.
Away a little bit too much there, Van Snelheid. Looking at Halvorsen, how he's going to potentially recover. He's right on the back of Vazquez. He makes that overtake. He's then got about 9 seconds to take up to Alar Kanga. I think despite that, he might still finish in that 7th place that he's made very much his home so far this season.
Well, you say that. I think if the top 6 all finished as they should, Halvorsen would normally be 7th. However, Alar Kanga has very much made 7th place his own this season. I'm just going to check just to make sure I get this right, but I do believe, yeah, there we go. He's finished there. He's finished 7th 3 times in the last 4 races. The only time he didn't was Britain, where he retired.
Wow. Very good. Okay, fair enough. No, I think we have got some really good guys in that upper midfield section of the grid, and it's been really interesting to watch them. How old is Johan Halvorsen, though? That slipped my mind entirely.
How old is Johan Halvorsen? We shall have a look.
Because
he is 29
going around
now.
Oh, right, okay. So the problem is going around the paddock. I'm not very good at judging people's ages anyway, and you can't just walk up to them and say, how old are you? So thankfully we have all the resources available to us in the booth to let you know that. So to be honest, he's reached the point in his career that if he's going to advance any further, it needs to be next season, I'd say. Whether that, well, with North Star next season. Beyond that, I think, he's certainly proven himself to be really good. But I think we've seen it in other forms of motorsport, haven't we? That the people develop that solid reputation in the midfield, but they don't really get that chance to prove what they can do in time, and then they kind of almost waste away in the midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we need to do is, I think we just need to keep the expectations for Halvorsen in check slightly as well. There's no doubt that he's good. He's you don't win races, you don't challenge for a championship as he did in 2016 against arguably a much faster car. I mean, admittedly, Mathshaw had far more bad luck than Meteor did, but for Halvorsen to keep in there as long as he did was really impressive. However, we've never seen him against a really strong teammate.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I think we've seen that a few times, but I'll be honest with you, there are guys on the grid, possibly Timo Kinnaman, for instance, that I rate them very highly, don't get me wrong, but you put them against the best in the world, you put them against the best on the grid, and there's just that couple of tenths that are missing. And obviously, if they were given time in that car to settle, potentially, but the reality is that when you look at how close this race is so far between Porsche, Downton and First, we don't have the time to start giving top drivers 2 or 3 seasons to really settle into a team and get that speed up without risking losing positions in the championship.
Yeah, definitely. As Enrico Ruiz pits, Nathaniel Powers doesn't then. So Ruiz has only made 16 laps yet again on the stint. Powers is going for 17.
Yeah, Powers now with just enough in hand to make that final stop, to go down to a restop, I believe. Yeah. Ruiz, well, that's not good. He needs to make this one last.
Yeah, he absolutely does then. Ruiz, he could be costing. I mean, admittedly, he's only come out 12 seconds behind Powers. I don't think it's entirely unreasonable for him to make that gap up, given what we've seen. But yeah,
what
Ruiz,
I will say,
that was slightly unexpected.
Yeah, but what I will say is, if he can manage to make that last set of tyres last as long as they need to, he's now got wonderful clean air, because they're still relatively far away from the back markers in terms of getting lapping done. He could well execute the undercut here. I know he was already in a good position, but he could extend that margin as long as he can get that extra lap at some point during the race. This could really do wonders for Ruiz.
Well, it certainly could. I mean, it would put him far further clear, as he's already gained 1.5 seconds on Powers this lap. As you can see how worn Powers' tyres are now as he just slides around the last few corners and into the pit lane then. And wow, really lost grip in the last sector there. Those tyres are absolutely finished.
Yeah, there's a word we'd use for that in the trade, but we can't say that on air.
Does it begin with F and end with uct?
No, it ends in S and ends in hang. But for Powers, that was definitely worth it. He's lost 1.5, as the extra soft runners are also in.
And even better, he's come out ahead of his teammate, as that was a slight collision there between Adrian Simon and Felix Perez in the pit lane then, and there was just a little bit of contact, and I think, it does look as though Simon has lost an element on his front wing.
Yeah, he lost an element of his front wing during contact with Klaus van Schnell. I don't know whether or not we replaced it in one of the stops, because there's every chance
just glue it back on.
Yeah, well, as I say, we might have replaced the front wing, we might not, because the balance of the car is such that we can with the onboard controls, you can make the other elements a little bit more of a higher angle of attack, just to give you that little bit more balance. But yeah, I've lost my train of thought entirely. That was rather exciting.
Well, what I was going to say just before that slight incident is Perez has lost loads of time now to Simon, hasn't he? Given he was ahead of him by a good few seconds, and being re-overtaken by Klaas van Snelheid really hasn't helped in there at all. But just on the subject of Klaas van Snelheid, Nathaniel Powers came out in front of his teammate, and that's going to be crucial. If he now can make the 3-stop work, not being stuck behind Klaas is, he's giving himself the best chance here. Although Ruiz is trying to do absolutely everything he can to thwart that as he bangs in the fastest lap.
Yeah, I, at the risk of making myself look stupid twice in one race, I'm changing my favourite here. I think that Nathaniel Powers might actually be the one that looks most likely to take the win here, if he can make that one stop less than Ruiz. If Ruiz can manage to eke out one set of tyres, then I'm going to be changing my answer once again.
So hang on, when did Ruiz pit? Lap 32?
End of lap 32.
So that will be, what, 49? So if he then makes if he can go 17,
64.
and then...
Yeah.
Oh no, so if he makes both sets of tyres go 17 laps, he can just about do it, because then he'd be pitting for the final time of lap 66, which obviously being the penultimate lap won't happen. However, if this set of tyres only goes 16 laps, he's committing himself to a 4-stopper.
Yes, so we're going to know before the final stint, we think, that we'll see. We'll almost know who's in the driving seat of this race before the final stints.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair, I don't think Powers is home and dry yet either, because he's going to need to go 17 laps again on this set of tyres.
Right, that's a very good point. But if he doesn't, he's still got the leeway of the final stint just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. He could go 17 laps on, or well, it'd be 18 at that point, wouldn't it?
And crucially, as well, Downton have done it once. They know that they've got the data, they've got the tyres back, they know exactly whether they actually can do this.
Yeah, definitely.
For Porsche, it's still very much a stab into the dark. Like, you'd expect the tyre to do a similar job to everybody else in the grid. But we've seen that some teams switch their tyres on a little bit quicker, and I think Ruiz in particular has been very good at coming out of the pit lane straight onto the with the fresh tyres straight out of the blanket, really making use of that rubber. And I think he probably does take that little bit more life out of the tyre.
Well, I was just going to say, I wonder if maybe he has done that, but maybe he's taken a little bit too much life out of the tyre. He's already starting to lose a couple of tenths here and there to Nathaniel Powers. Yeah,
I think it's the ebb and flow of the circuit as well doesn't help. The very high speed first section, once you come into that hairpin, it always concertinas up, comes out a little bit, and but I think you are right. Over the course of the last couple of kind of lap or so, Powers has certainly just started to bring back. So this is very much anyone's race.
It certainly is. It's really tricky to call this one then, and I don't think we can forget Klaas van Snelheid there in third place either.
No, most definitely. I think this is
especially in terms of Ruiz. If Ruiz does have to do a 4-stop, actually.
Yeah. Oh no, this is very much this is a 3. Also, Will Hoskins, after his early struggle, only 4.5 seconds, well, 5.5 seconds, sorry, behind Van Snelheid. I think Ruiz has to be careful not to end up in 4th position.
Yeah, very much so. And even Adrian Simon there. I mean, how many more stops has Simon got to make?
Quite a few.
Oh. Okay, never mind.
3. Is it 3? Is it 2 or 3? I think it's 2, to be fair, but yeah, no, I think with the extra pace, I mean, he's now bottled up behind Will Hoskins a little bit. So, but then he's about to pit soon, I would imagine. So where is he going to come out? Yeah, he's only going to end up in falling down 3 positions to about 8. He will have to try and navigate Alakanga again.
Well, Simon's got a good few laps before he pits yet. They're not going to stop until lap 44.
Yeah. No, very true. Yeah, I think the extra soft tyre strategy is one of these ones where it's almost like much ado about nothing. Like, if you're at the front, great, you will run away with it, and there's every chance that you'll get the victory. But I can see Adrian Simon starting this race 4th and finishing this race 4th, despite being occupying pretty much every other position on the grid in the meantime.
Entirely possible. Yeah, well,
Because
it's sort of like the only laps he'll have been fourth will be the start and the end.
yeah, like no, because I think that as long as there is an amount of this little bit of overtaking that can be done, I'm hoping here potentially we're going to see Adrian Simon make one of those overtakes on Will Hoskins. And has he? Yes, I think he's done it well before the corner, to be honest. But yeah, so I think that as long as there is an element of overtaking that's possible, we've seen. I can't remember who it was. I think it was last race or a couple of races ago. Someone else on the extra soft tyre. In fact, it was one of the Ocelots, if I remember correctly. Similar thing. They kind of started in the middle of the pack, dropped right to the back. We thought, this isn't going to go very well. But actually, with attrition and everything that happened, they ended up moving ever so slightly forward because they were managing to make those overtakes, weren't they?
Yeah, I think it was. I want to say it was Veranas.
Yeah, no, I can't remember which Ocelot it was, but I think the extra soft tyre.
Yeah, Veranas was on the extras.
Tyre. It's a far more raceable tyre than we give it credit for sometimes. And I think again, similar to this race, it's one of these tyres that actually it's more useful at the end of the race because as you get gaps in the field, you can make use of the fresh rubber and then overtake people, rather than when you're in the train. Because if you're in a train of 5 or 6 cars and you're at the back, you can't overtake one car without risking losing the position from behind, or you can't overtake when there's somebody already occupying the position you want to get into. So I think, yeah, it's a tyre that certainly comes into its own later on in the race, and I think we might even be seeing that again after I completely discredited it earlier. Yeah,
I think all I was going to say all 6, but actually Perez is quite far behind now. This stint's just not really worked out for him whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I think any of the top 5 really here, we could see on the podium still.
No, I think you're totally right. And looking at the only other extra soft runner in the race, Carl Beckenbauer, again, we're halfway through a race where he's going to have to make another 2 pit stops at least, so it's very anecdotal. But considering the convergence between the medium-tired runners and the extra softs at half distance, you'd expect them to again converge at full race distance potentially.
Yeah, most definitely. Although just looking at Klaas van Snelheid, if we reckon a pit stop is around, I'm thinking it's slightly less than 20 seconds, at maybe 18.
Yeah, I think you're about right. About right.
Klaas is already 12 behind Ruiz, so Ruiz has already got 1 pit stop in hand, and he's only 6 seconds away from another.
Yeah, Ruiz again, clear track. It's kind of his domain, isn't it? It's you put him in a race car, you put him on a bit of tarmac with nothing in front of him, and he's going to drive it as quickly as he can.
Yeah, I mean absolutely. Yeah. But I have to say, I'm very impressed with Nathaniel Powers in this stint. You know, Ruiz earlier on in the race and in previous races has just romped away into the distance. Powers, in this stint at least, has very much kept him honest. I know he's 6.5 seconds back, but that's a gap that was sort of 7
it was
over
about
7.
7, wasn't it? Yeah. No,
when he came out of the pits, and you know he's not let Ruiz get any further ahead, and if anything, he's trimmed that ever so slightly in this stint. So this is a solid effort from Nathaniel Powers. He's really putting himself in contention for this one, I think.
Yeah, Powers is another one of these drivers that's very good throughout the entire race distance. He's consistent and he's quick. So I would wholeheartedly expect that his last lap of the race, in terms of lap time, considering where his tyres are going to be right up there with his first in terms of his pace and consistency. So yeah, this one really, we've had quite a lot of overtaking action on the circuit, but there's been nothing unusual from what we've seen in most of the Formula Virtual races this season. But it's a bit of a slow burner, but it's really hotting up to something quite good for the end, I think.
It's weird, we've seen a lot of overtakes, but the order's not particularly anything apart from what you'd expect. But cars keep going past one another quite a lot.
Yep. Oh,
as there we see Giordano actually trying to fight his way back from what we assume was an earlier incident with Elroy Wagner, but we didn't actually see a replay of. And goes up past Takahashi then to be not running last.
Absolutely, I think it's good to see the two would it be Arrow apostrophe S? No, it wouldn't. It would still be arrows multiple, but I mean in the singular sense of multiple arrows. It's good to see them on the grid. And actually, you know what?
That was confusing.
Yeah, I know. Problem is, I'm trying not to bring up the memories of the mid 2000 or the early 2000s.
I'll tell you what. Let's make it easy
Yep.
and just call them Minardi.
Minardi. I like that. That's, I'm not sure Ben would be particularly pleased with that, but yeah. But what we're looking at it, they're right on the pace of the of at least Addison in the Franklin. I was going to call it a Downton then.
Yes. Downton's not that far down the grid. We haven't been since 2016.
No, it was a good year that.
It wasn't.
Well, it was because we won, but
it wasn't. We were shite.
But it's something that I feel that every time, if I ever step into the booth again, which is debatable based on my past performances, I'm going to introduce something called backmarker watch around 2/3 of race distance. At the moment, we have the last 5 cars in somewhat of a train, and Ruiz is about 4 seconds away from catching them. So let the fun begin.
I mean, you just mentioned actually Nick Addison, and I'm surprised to see him down in 23rd. Not quite sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
Because he was doing really well earlier. But interestingly, if you mentioned the back 5 in this race, the back 5 in this race are filling positions 22, 23, 24, 25 and 26, meaning we still have everyone running.
Oh, it's okay. I thought you were doing a Murrayism there. I'm like, well, yes, the back 5 cars would be in back 5 position of the race, but I see your point, and I think, yeah, you are right, actually. I'm now firmly touching, I was going to say I'm firmly touching wood, but that's not particularly
I hope not.
appropriate. I'm firmly touching a wooden surface. Everybody's running, good reliability once again. Long may it continue.
Yeah, absolutely. As back up towards the front then, Adrian Simon has now caught Klaas van Snelheid for what feels like the 4th or 5th time in this race, to be honest.
Say, Van Snelheid's foam finger is getting a good use of it. Please go past and don't hit me.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think he's actually scribbled that on it while he's been in the car as well. And but actually, no, Klaas van Snelheid deciding he doesn't fancy that one anymore and is actually firmly defending against Adrian Simon into the hairpin, covers the inside line, and there's nothing Simon can do about it.
Yeah,
in fairness, he is going to bail for the pits in a lap or two, so I should imagine those extra soft tyres are well past their best.
Yeah, I think that the only thing that they're going to be good for right now is melting down and making these little souvenir wristbands for people who like our Goodyear tyres.
That sounds amazing. I've actually got 4 up my arm. They're brilliant.
You've got 4, 1 for each corner of your body.
No, 1 for each compound of tyre.
Oh, well, you won't get very consistent grip levels with one of those on each corner, will you?
Well, no, this is very true. But you know, I thought an extra soft and a hard on the rear, and then a soft and a medium on the front, opposite corners. Just see how it goes. It was a terrible. We tested that once actually. It was a terrible idea.
We've tried the medium on the rear and soft on the front strategy a few years ago, just in testing. Obviously, we can't run that in race because we were finding we were really overheating the rear tyres. So we thought we'd try it with a harder compound and see what happens. But yeah, the balance goes completely off. So don't try that one at home, kids.
No.
Van Snelheid, though, still actually, very much happy to defend his position this time. Although getting towards the end of the race, I think he knows they've kind of set the rules of engagement. He knows that Adrian Simon is actually quite willing to torpedo him, so putting his car in the right position and just costing the Frenchman time, which is only going to help Van Snelheid's cause.
I think partly, but also, Simon's tyres, as just mentioned, are right towards the end of their life cycle. And I don't think he's really got anything in there at the moment to properly challenge Klaas with. If those tyres were fresher, and he'd have been passed a lap or two ago, and I think Klaas knows that. He'll obviously have been told on the radio, Adrian's tyres are towards the end of their life, you can defend this one. And I think it's fairly straightforward for him. And in fact, there we go. Adrian Simon dives into the pit lane then for his 4th stop.
Probably find that Van Snelheid pushed him in there or something at this point.
Give up, go in the pits. And thankfully this time he's managed to get out of his pit box before Perez turns up, so there's not going to be any contact.
But it looks like over that stint made about a second and a half, 2 seconds over the Mexican.
Yeah, definitely a solid amount. As In fact, Simon, that's going to really help him then. He's come out in some beautifully clear air. He's got 10 seconds in front of him to Will Hoskins. And just ahead of Alar Kanga. Meanwhile, Perez has fed out just behind Sergio Alvarez, and that's not going to help him at all.
Yeah, that difficult middle stint for Perez, or stint before the previous one, really, the costs of that are really coming to the fore now. Meanwhile, looking at Beckenbauer, I'm interested to see where he comes out once again for my idea of the extra soft tyre ending up where it begins, and he has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, he certainly does. It's really, as we say.
Although some of those soft tyred runners will be pitting not that far away, or not that long. So
yeah, we're looking at around 50 for the next sort of round of stops for these soft tyres, aren't we? Well,
yeah.
48, 49, 50, I think.
Yeah.
Depending on how many laps they've managed on previous stints.
You're actually completely right. We are now reaching the crucial stage of the race, I'd say, with, what happens in these next 4 laps in the pit lane will probably go on to define the result of this race at the front.
I was going to say, so if someone pits on lap 48, they're committing themselves to a 4-stopper, aren't they?
Yeah, so
if it's 49, they can do it, but they're going to need a 17-lap stint or 18-lap stint at the end of the race. If they pit on lap 50, they're going to make it to the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think lap 49, as you say, you'll have that final lap, which is going to be horrible to drive. But unless we come,
I was just going to say, so 49. If they only do 16 laps on that final stint, that's going to be lap 65, and they will pit.
Ah, it's a very good point. Yeah, and I don't know whether if they're going to pit that early, if they're going to pit on lap 49. I'd highly doubt they would then extend the last stint if they're not confident to extend that stint first.
Well, absolutely. So
this is.
Yeah, so it's 48 is an absolute 4-stopper. 49 is probably a 4-stopper. 50, they go into the end.
Yeah, and with backmarker watch once more, lap 3 has begun. So expect the gap between Powers and Ruiz to yo-yo like nobody's business.
Yes. How is it up to... No, never mind. I was going to say, how is it up to 6.5 seconds? I'm sure it was only 1, but it wasn't, was it? It was 7, and it had slightly come down. So it's about exactly where it was. As side by side there, we've got Beckenbauer and Addison, I think that is.
Yep, and my feed to the TV director really showing here that Ruiz is now come up to 3 battling back markers. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they momentarily pause their battle to obey the blue flags.
To be honest, if Ruiz is looking fairly nailed on for a 4-stopper now, and we had complete control over the strategy, what would make the most sense would be for Matthew to just bring him in now, avoid all this, as he goes around the outside of Yukimi Takahashi, but that's cost him already nearly 1.5 seconds alone in that sector. But yeah, if we had complete control over the strategy, if I was Mathishaw right now, I'd bring him in and say avoid all this carnage.
Yeah, too right. The only thing is that with the gap being 4.7, actually, with the gap being 4.7 seconds, Powers isn't going to get to these guys, I don't think, before he pits. If you know what I mean.
I think you're bang on, yeah.
So he's not going to have to deal with back markers. So
although they are quite a bit slower, and he could have a whole 3 laps yet still.
True.
He might just about get to sort of Takahashi and Addison.
Yeah.
But Beckenbauer on those extra soft tyres will have disappeared up the road by then.
Yeah.
Actually, that's going to be interesting. To be fair, Ruiz might only have Addison to contend with, because I think Beckenbauer on those fresh extra softs will... I don't think Ruiz is going to catch him, to be honest. Let's be fair, that Westwood isn't particularly slow. It's just well out of position.
Yeah, particularly, actually, as you say, with Ruiz, we think he's probably going to be nailed on for a 4-stop strategy. He's going to pit at the end of this lap or next lap, so I think he might well pit at the end of this lap based on what we've seen previously.
Yeah, I think he might as well. We'll keep an eye on it, as there is Nathaniel Powers. Gap now down under 4.5 seconds between the top 2, and Powers will be absolutely praying that Ruiz does dive into the pit lane. And we're keeping an eye on the time screen. I don't think he has. I think Ruiz has carried on.
No.
Ruiz is going to try and extend this one then. So this is it, lap 49. If he pits now, it's still up in the air, but he's got a far better chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I quite like the fact that I think I nearly duped the down boys there with my call for here. People clearly listening to us down in the pit lane, Bradley.
I don't know why. It's not like we're providing anything useful.
No, I'm absolutely lost right now. Yeah, just looking up and down the timing screen, seeing anything particularly noteworthy, interesting.
Perez. I mean, Perez has passed Alvarez somewhere. We missed that one out on track, and is now.
Yep.
I was going to say he's now catching Kanga, but I think he's more in a position of trying to catch Kanga. He doesn't seem to be making much headway, to be honest.
Yeah, Kanga's very much still going for it. I'm intrigued that Halverson hasn't really made any headway on Alvarez since what's behind him with his incident. So I think that just shows even more how good a performance Alvarez has had today on the medium tyre.
Yeah, almost definitely. I mean, especially as you say, given Halverson is on a softer compounded tyre, as we're on board with Ruiz very sideways into the penultimate corner, and he dives for the pit lane then, and that is the end of lap 49. So it's still going to be squeaky bum time down in the Mathershaw garage to the end of the race. Powers does indeed continue on. Nathaniel Powers then nails himself on for a 3-stop strategy. Ruiz is still going to be up in the air. And if he comes out behind Klaas van Snelheid as well, that could really cost him. Klaas van Snelheid down the straight, Ruiz still in the pit lane, Van Snelheid around the corner, and he is through. Ruiz will only come out in 3rd position.
Yeah, Van Snelheid still has 1 stop to go as well, doesn't he?
He does, yes. So I mean, let's be fair, Ruiz is probably going to breeze past him fairly comfortably.
So he's still in a better position than Van Snelheid, but even if Ruiz can extend the stint, he's 11 seconds off. No, he's going to pit. Never mind. What I'm thinking though is that Van Snelheid, if Ruiz can catch him, he really should be trying to hold him up for all he's worth here to do with Powers a favour after maybe losing him a little bit of time earlier in the race.
Yeah, and I think he absolutely will. He's not going to compromise his own race by any means, but I think he absolutely will do what he can to back Ruiz up. Again, all the time he's in front of him, he's damaging Ruiz's tyres as well, which is only going to aid Klaas himself towards the end of the race. As that is a Franklin parking up at the side of the track, flames coming out the rear end, and that is Nick Addison then, who becomes on lap 50 the first retirement here in Germany, as Nathaniel Powers, race leader, then dives for the pit lane.
Yeah, shame to see Addison there making being the first time at the race. To be fair, the Honda so far this year seems to have been pretty good in terms of its reliability, so I suppose they might have been due a misfortune during the race. I think we've certainly seen other teams being a little less reliable than usual. Powers comes out.
And look at you can tell
3.5 seconds.
I was going to say, 3 seconds only behind Ruiz. Given the gap was about 4.5 when they came into the pits, you can tell how much Klaas van Snelheid then has held up on Rico Ruiz. I don't think it's going to be for much longer. I think, actually, Ruiz is further behind than I was expecting. I don't think he's going to quite get this move done this time round. I think Ruiz is going to be stuck there a little while longer. I
think you're absolutely right. I think that Ruiz should be behind him for the remainder of this lap as.
That's Simon and trying to get past Will Hoskins then. Hoskins forces him right to the inside. He was very unwilling to give that one up. And Simon goes, fine mate, if you're going to force me to the inside, I'm going to cut the corner.
We'll clarify that with Stuart later.
I'm sure it's fine. Everyone else seems to get away with it now and then. I wouldn't worry one iota.
No.
As here we go then, on board with Enrique Ruiz. You can see Klaas's tyres are starting to give out just a little bit. How long is it until Klaas pits?
I have 1 lap, 2 laps.
I was going to say, it can't be that far, can he? And you can tell how slow he is now. Look at that then. Powers has got the gap between himself and Ruiz down to just about 2.5 seconds. And Ruiz is practically pushing the Downton along the track.
Wow, this is... to be honest, we're getting to the point now that Powers, even if Ruiz doesn't pit, straight fight with Ruiz going to be on absolutely ancient tyres by the end. I think Powers still has every chance of winning this, even if he doesn't get the rub of the green with Ruiz having to pit again. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I am very surprised by that one. Ruiz on fresh tyres. I mean, classes have clearly, they're well past their best. Past their sell-by date, as I suppose we'd probably say.
Ruiz still couldn't get that move done despite starting the straight right tucked up under Klaas's rear wing. And this is costing him horribly. The gap to Powers is now nearly barely a second.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can think here is that the guys down the pit wall have either said we can't do it to the end, so don't worry about it. Let's just say there's no point overtaking him because you'll just fall back behind, or wait until the fresh tyres come on and wait for those last couple of laps, or they're trying to run with a reduced pace to make sure that they can get the tyres that extra lap to the end.
I'll tell you what this is doing as well. Look at Adrian Simon. He's taken about 2.5 seconds out of Klaas van Snelheid in the last lap and a bit alone. Both of them, I mean, Simon's going to dive in 2 laps time and he's going to have fresh tyres on. They've both only got one more stop to go. I think this is going to be quite close between Klaas and Simon for the final spot on the podium.
Yeah,
There's Ruiz then bulked up behind Klaas van Snelheid, and Powers is going to take advantage, as Adrian Simon did earlier in the race. Powers, is he going to do 2 cars in one? I don't think he's quite going to get his he is going to get his teammate. They're side by side, they bang wheels through the hairpin then, through the exit, but it is Nathaniel Powers who takes the lead.
What a move! That is absolutely incredible.
He absolutely used his teammate to the best effect there. We saw Adrian Simon execute it earlier in the race to, I think, was it a pass Perez using Alar Kanga? Or it might have been, actually it might not have been Kanga, but yeah, Powers replicates it then absolutely beautifully.
That was a move for the ages. To be honest, if anything, that move probably warrants him getting the victory alone, never mind the fantastic drive he's done for the previous 52 laps. I don't know whether Ruiz, has he lost a bit of top end in his engine or something that means he can't quite make that move on Van Snelheid, but regardless of that, Powers there, a move for the ages for definite.
Yeah, there's definitely something, isn't there? Ruiz is look, I mean, Powers is a 1.5 seconds clear already now. Adrian Simon is rocketing up to the back of these guys. He's taking about 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap out of them.
More to the point, look at Yukimi Takahashi hassling on Rike Ruiz and Klaas van Snelheid through the corners.
Watch as Takahashi now does a Powers on them both.
Yeah.
No, Ruiz still isn't making the move.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to venture to say there's something wrong with that Porsche power unit. We've seen a bit of reliability woes before, but yeah, no, this is playing so much into the hands of Nathaniel Powers. It's been
well, yeah, there we go. I think Ruiz has realised now that he's not quite going to do it on the well, I was going to say straight, but it's more a curve, and he's absolutely taking it into his own hands. And Ruiz up the inside into the corner then at the Mercedes grandstand, and yeah, finally Ruiz has got the move done, but he's now already 2.5 seconds behind Nathaniel Powers. His tyres will be absolutely wrecked from being sat behind Klaas van Snelheid for so long, and he might still have to pit again as well.
Yeah, I'm tempted to say he might have managed to even sit. And there you go. As soon as he gets the move done, Van Snelheid comes in. I think he's done his job wonderfully for Downton in that last stint.
He absolutely has.
You might find Ruiz has managed to save some tyres on that, because looking at the way the Malachor Porsche was driving, it had an awful lot of grip considering he was behind another car, and with what looked to be a deficit at the top end compared to normal on the straights, he realised that his only move was going to be something bold in the corners in one of the tighter, twistier sections. So it's ruined his chances of a win, I would say, certainly. But yeah, that was an intriguing turn. It was an intriguing little battle full stop, absolutely punctuated with that world-class move from Nathaniel Powers.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. As once again, a pit stop hasn't quite worked out for the first team, as Will Hoskins comes back onto the track behind Alar Kanga. I mean, to be fair, I don't think he's really in the fight with anyone anyway. I think he's pretty much nailed on for 5th or 6th. I think it's going to be tight between him and Felix Perez, his teammate. Obviously, Perez is going to have some fresh, extra soft tyres come the end of the race. Well, actually, in a lap or two, come the end of the race, they'll be absolutely knackered.
Yeah, they're going to be one massive marble.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I think, Hoskins is already past Kanga though. Klaas van Snelheid rejoined in 5th, comfortably clear of Alvarez and behind Perez. As here we go then, Adrian Simon dives in, and this is going to be the one to watch. He's likely going to come out behind Klaas van Snelheid, but he's going to have fresh and far quicker tyres.
Yeah. And again, that stint there looks like Perez didn't really lose anything to Adrian Simon. It's yeah, Ruiz almost has the margin to make that pit stop.
He does, but let's not forget, Ruiz now is on, tyres, soft tyres that are sort of halfway or getting towards the end of their life. Klaas van Snelheid is on fresh mediums. I don't think there's going to be an awful lot between them pace-wise.
No, I totally agree. I think that it's going to be touch and go when Ruiz pits, whether he can get past Van Snelheid. It's almost a case of whether Adrian Simon can make up that 4 seconds before the tyres go off, get past Van Snelheid, and make a bit of a margin. So, yeah, it's so close at the end of the German V-Prix this year.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Simon, this could go one of two ways for him. He's either going to rocket up to the back of Klaas van Snelheid and breeze past him and be able to get within Ruiz's pit window and jump him for second place, or he's going to catch Klaas van Snelheid. They're going to battle, and that's going to give Ruiz the gap that he needs to pit and rejoin, still in second.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to be honest as well, this three-way battle here would have been a four-way battle for the lead, but the combination of Van Snelheid doing what can only be described as teamwork with respect to Ruiz, combined with Powers pulling off that move. Powers, it's very much been a Powers race to win, if you like, today, I'd say. He's the one that's made the difference today in a race
trying to unlap himself from Nathaniel Powers is Lewis Ellington. And I think he pretty much has got that. I mean, bearing in mind he was fully behind. And no, Powers does sweep around the outside. And I'm sure there would have been a firm middle finger that went up there as Ruiz throws the car down the inside of Lewis Ellington. And admittedly, he's trying to lap. Well, all right. That's one way to get him out of the way.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. That was robust. And that move though was very much a hallmark of Ruiz having a car that only does anything good in the corners at the moment. He's trying to make everything stick on a back marker that's usually 2 seconds a lap off the pace. So
definitely.
That's not the best of moves, admittedly, from Enrique Ruiz. But I think it's one of those situations where the guy Ellington was getting blue flagged, and I think it was a 50-50 at worst.
I'll tell you what, it's not going to help him though. The gap between himself and Klaas van Snelheid is now down to 15.5 seconds, and that is definitely not a pit stop.
No, and
Adrian Simon bangs in the fastest lap as well. Sorry, I missed that at the top of the screen. Simon is pushing for this then.
Yeah, no, I can see Simon just grabbing that final podium position.
I think this is going to be really close. I think, to be honest, Powers, at the point that Powers was able to extend and make it a 3-stop, this was, as you say, always his race to win. The battle is very firmly behind them for second.
Yeah, totally agree. I can't get over the variety in strategy once again. So we've got Powers and Ruiz on the soft tyre, and as you say, Powers is the one that's made the difference between the two of them today, even managing to get that extra lap on a couple of stints. And then you've got Van Snelheid on the mediums, and then the extra softs have popped up again. So frankly, you could pick a tyre and you were going to finish where you were going to finish today, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting it'd been interesting to see how the hard would have got on today. I don't think we actually had anyone on the hard tyre whatsoever.
No, not a single runner. Beckenbauer in 18th, but then possibly expect. I don't even know whether there are any pit stops left to.
No, not for the extra soft tyres they're on. All of the extra soft runners have now made their final stop.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking the guys in front. So we've got Zylander on the mediums, who I think will have pitted because.
Well, the only guys left to pit are those on the softs that couldn't quite make a 3-stopper work, which I think actually, given we've seen in previous races the midfield have usually managed to go a little bit longer on the tyres, I think the 3-stopper of the 4-stopper on the softs might just be Ruiz, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Ruiz is the only one. So actually, Beckenbauer has made the move on Milkovic there. So yeah, he's dropped a couple of positions from the starting place. But once again, and Perez is back where he started, as is Adrian Simon at the moment, and it's only going to get better for Simon. I think we've seen today once again. Pick a tyre, any tyre. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be the case. Just looking outside of the top 6 then, Alar Kanga, I mentioned earlier in the race, he'd finished 7th 3 times in the last 4 races. He is currently running. Yep, you guessed it, no prizes. He's 7th again. Sergio Alvarez, this has been a sublime performance from the Argentinian. He's been quiet and unassuming. He's just gone about his job, but he's done it absolutely perfectly. To be 8th in that Phoenix, which, let's be fair, you know, they've shown flashes now and then, but they haven't scored points since the opening round in Japan.
Yeah, no,
and this has been a brilliant drive from him.
Another absolutely awesome performance from Alvarez. And I was saying earlier that Alex Easter might be getting vertigo. I think someone in the paddock needs to deliver him a parachute perhaps this race.
Yeah, I'd say so. And the fact that he's able to keep Johan Halvorsen back as well, when Halvorsen earlier in the race was hassling Will Hoskins.
Yeah.
You know, that's a stunning effort from...
I do wonder whether or not Halvorsen ended up with some slight damage because of the incident he had, which would account for some of the pace difference, would take nothing away from Alvarez, absolutely.
Very possibly, as that's... we just see Perez going past his first teammate, Will Hoskins. And I wouldn't say that was orchestrated, you know. Perez, let's be fair, he's not really going to go any further forwards, is he? He's some 11 seconds behind anyone in front of him. But he was on the extra soft tyres compared to Hoskins' mediums. I don't think Hoskins was ever going to be able to hold him back there.
No, I don't. I think that even if there were team orders, which I know the first guys have very much let them race, kind of proper true races down there, I don't think there was ever any question of which of those two was going to get out that corner ahead.
Yeah, most definitely. The interesting point now then will be whether Hoskins can actually hold off Kanga for 6th. Kanga is on the softs, I believe.
Yep.
And that,
certainly
let's
is.
be fair, that would be a stellar effort from Alar Kanga if he can get in amongst those top 3 teams.
Yeah, I think that's it's another great drive from the Estonian. It's just a question of whether he'd rather have the extra couple of points or whether he'd rather continue his run of 7ths.
Well, that's very much what we're going to have to wait and see, as Adrian Simon now then has caught up to the back of Klaas van Snelheid. Once again, this is extra softs on mediums, and it didn't catch him quite as quickly as I was expecting, but maybe Simon, you know, he knows this stint is going to be longer than the others. He's not going to want tyres that are completely dead at the end of the race. Maybe he's just trying to stretch them a little bit. I think he's played this beautifully, and it's not going to be long before we see him move past Klaas into 3rd.
No, I think he'll complete the lap, come through the first sector, and then down the back curve into the hairpin. He'll hopefully line up and move. But then again, Van Snelheid really good defending into the hairpin all day, and I wouldn't be surprised if he can hold this off for another 5 laps.
Yeah, definitely. The pair of them as well have just closed, not a whole lot, but have just closed marginally on Enrique Ruiz, and I wonder if Bathashaw now have kind of accepted, like, you know, right, Powers is gone, I don't think there's anything we can do about that. If we pit, we're going to be 4th. I wonder if they've told Ruiz to just maybe back it off a little and just try and eke those tyres out to the end. It's going to have to be a mammoth final stint from him. But, well, he's done one 17-lap stint. There's no reason he can't do another. As here we go then, on board with Adrian Simon. Much better exit from turn 3. And on the back, as you say, curve, on the outside, takes the inside line for the hairpin and easily through into the final podium position. Yeah,
clambers over the curb there with ease. And yeah, I think you have got a good point there with Ruiz. I think it's a kind of, at this point, they were always going to be relatively consigned to 4th if they pit. So try it. If it doesn't work, you pit anyway and you don't lose anything. So let Powers go. He's had, well, as you said, he's had the pace almost from the middle of the race. So Ruiz, in that initial stint, did pull out a reasonable margin. But between Van Snelheid's defence in the middle of the race, but even in clear air, the two of them, Powers was making up a little, just those couple of tenths here and there on Ruiz. So the pace for Ruiz really wasn't quite there from, I'd say, about a third of the way through the race.
I don't know if it's the pace from Ruiz wasn't there, or that Powers just turned it up. I'm wondering if maybe one of the guys just sort of like slipped him a, obviously, Monster energy drink during his second pit stop. And since then, he's just kind of, you know, he's just had that little bit extra of a kick.
Very good. Well, unfortunately, it looks like that your energy may well be beating the Coca-Cola energy for today. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes throughout the season.
We certainly will. If just on Ruiz though, I mean, if he is going to try and eke this to the end, obviously fair play to him. I suppose, to be fair, if the tyres totally drop off the cliff, he's got 15 seconds back to Adrian Simon. So, you know, I can't imagine him losing that much. But he can't afford to lose that much time if they then realise that they do need to pit him, because Perez is only 8 seconds further back.
Yeah, that is very true. What was the gap? Is Powers losing a little bit of time to Adrian Simon as he's now making his way through the traffic?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, to be fair, it's hovered around sort of between 1.8 and 2.2 seconds. So I think it's just fluctuating as they are putting laps on the back markers.
As I was looking at the timing screen, I answered my own question going, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But another solid race. To be honest, you look at the timing screens, and nobody's had a bad race. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of.
I mean, Addison's out. That's not brilliant.
Oh no, do you know what I mean? Like in terms of performance, other than the Honda engine not performing at all after it lit to about 1600 degrees C. But all the driving talent on the grid, everybody is either about performing where you'd expect the car to be and doing well as a result, or they're all better. Like I don't think there's any. I don't look at anybody in the order right now and go, they should be higher for any other reason than possibly Giordano, who. Well, then again, he's only 3 positions down on where he started, and as you said, he had a problem where we think he made contact with Elroy Wagner.
I was going to say, yeah, but then to be fair, Giordano's only sort of, 3.5 seconds down on his teammate. If there were two I was going to pick out, Thierry Zylander, I mean, admittedly, he is only, 25-ish seconds behind his teammate. That equates to quite a few places because the midfield is so tight. But I think that's largely down to the fact that Alvarez has had a phenomenal race. The only other one, Elroy Wagner, admittedly, we mentioned earlier, we think he got tangled up with Giordano. But he, even early on, he was ahead of his teammate. Then he lost out and dropped 6 seconds back, and he's now some 42 seconds behind him.
Yeah, no, I think you're all right. I think Wagner's probably the one person that I would say has underperformed, unfortunately, at his home race as well.
I mean, as we highlighted, we think he was involved in an incident that we haven't seen. But even so, look at the last few races. Elroy Wagner. He had that 6th position in Malaysia. Since then, he's been 11th, 9th, 11th, 12th and retired. While Alar Kanga has picked up points in every race he's finished and been, as we mentioned, consistently 7th, apart from in...
Recently, it's 7. Yeah.
Well, apart from Britain, where he retired.
Yeah,
Kanga is making Wagner look stupid.
I wouldn't actually dispute that, yeah. Now, we're coming into the stadium section here. I think we're about to see the crucial phase of the race for the final 2 podium positions.
Good point.
Powers obviously will drive straight past and start not on the race.
I'll tell you, I'll have a heart attack if he pits.
You're okay. You're all right.
Phew.
But this is it now. I'm hoping we cut to him.
Well, I think, to be honest, the timing is still on the screen. I think Ruiz has carried on.
I think you might be right.
And they've decided that they're just going to try and eke it to the end.
Yeah, I think in that case, it clearly shows that you were right saying that we were going to just start to ease off, accept the defeat almost. Because 2nd and 3rd, good points in the Constructors' Championship, and obviously Ruiz still right up there in the Drivers' Championship. Really, just pile on the points, keep everything going. If you end up having a bad race where you finish 2nd, then it's not a bad race, is it really?
No, absolutely. And is this the first one of the season then? Is this the first time in 2020 that we've seen Ruiz kind of beaten in what's essentially been a straight fight?
Yes, no, I would absolutely agree with that.
Japan earlier in the season where he finished 2nd, Wagner. Kanga was on a different strategy, so you wouldn't...
Yeah.
And that strategy clearly proved to be the best. Here, both Powers and Ruiz have been on the soft tyres. Admittedly, Ruiz got slightly caught up behind Powers' his teammate Klaas Reichenauer, and Klaas absolutely played the team game, but Ruiz couldn't make that move work, and Powers capitalised on that. He's had the pace in the 2nd stint.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think that even if you can make the argument, as you say, about Van Snelheid with Ruiz, it's the first time in this season I'd certainly say that Downton have defeated Porsche in a straight fight, and signs look really positive for the Downton team moving forward now, because their car looks like it's been every bit the match for the Porsche, possibly to the extent where we could say that first lost that little bit of ground.
Yeah, it certainly, it definitely seems like that. From the last few races to here in Germany, Downton have definitely sort of made that step away from first and up to Mattershore Porsche. And it'll be interesting to see if they can carry that on going forwards then. And Nathaniel Powers now has about half a lap to go, 3 seconds back to Ruiz, and it looks as though he may well claim his second victory in 3 races.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been pretty rich vein of fun, to be fair.
Yeah, it certainly has. If it hadn't been for his retirement last time out, he'd have been in the top 2 for 3 races in a row. Alar Kanga still all over the back of Will Hoskins further behind, but they're about half a minute off the lead. Still hasn't been able to make that move done, the Estonian. Nathaniel Powers then, as he power slides round the final 2 corners, and Nathaniel Powers, he's gone toe-to-toe with Ruiz here in Germany, and he's come out on top. Powers wins the 2020 German V-Prix. Enrique Ruiz finishes in second place. It's it's a fairly good season when a bad day results in second, but that's it for Ruiz. Adrian Simon is going to complete the podium then in third. He just had enough in that final stint on those fresh tyres to topple Klaas van Snelheid, but an honourable mention to the Dutchman. Admittedly, he'll be disappointed with 4th from 2nd on the grid, but his defending earlier in the race has absolutely helped his teammate and his team win this race here today, you have to feel. It's 5th and 6th for Perez and Hoskins, the 2 firsts very comfortably, only the 3rd fastest team, and not really challenging the top 2 or challenged by anyone behind. Kanga though was right behind Hoskins but couldn't quite get it done for his 4th, 7th place in 5 races. Sergio Alvarez does indeed take Phoenix's 2nd points finish of the year. It's 8th once again, as it was in Japan, while Johan Halverson and James Vasquez, finally his bad luck has come to an end. Vasquez takes a point. He's waited far too long for that one.
Yeah, brilliant performance today from Nathaniel Powers. Well deserved winner. I think he's undoubtedly driver of the day as well. He's, as you say, toe to toe with Enrique Ruiz, and he's won it.
Yeah, he absolutely has then. As Nathaniel, those tyres are absolutely shot, aren't they, as he slides his way back into the pit lane as the winner of the German V-Prix. So it's Nathaniel Powers then in the official classification, putting his Germany demons of the last 2 years finally to bed, using his teammate brilliantly to overtake Enrique Ruiz and take the win. It's Ruiz and Simon who complete the podium. Klaas van Snelheid finishes in 4th ahead of the 2 first. And finally, a point this season for James Vasquez in 10th place as Adrian Simon takes the fastest lap, and Nick Addison, the only retirement here today at Hockenheim. And what does that mean for the Drivers' Championship? Well, it means, obviously, Ruiz still leads, but the gap is reduced. It's now just 19 points to Nathaniel Powers, so it is back under a race win. There is very, very little movement in the whole of the championship. Klaas remains 3rd, ahead of the 2 firsts, and Adrian Simon, who has closed up, admittedly. Sort of in the midfield, Sergio Alvarez has passed Gabriel Garcia, and James Vasquez's first point and subsequent better results have put him past the other drivers who have only scored a sole point so far this season. In the Constructors, well, there's change, but once again, only at the top. Then for the 3rd race in succession, the lead changes hands, and it's Downton ahead, once again, by just 2 points over Mattershore Porsche. They've now also got a 1-2 in hand over first, back in 3rd. But that's all from our race here today in Hockenheim. So from both me and Rob, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time for round 9. from Indianapolis in the United States.